I really enjoyed today's episode with Jeb Johnston. He is someone who's always kind of stood out to me, whether it be his story, which I initially heard through my friends at the Fitness Devil podcast, just how much life experience he's had up to this point and how much life experience he continues to have through his traveling, through his career, through his ambitions towards bettering himself and bettering his clients. You would never guess by looking at him that he had been a hairstylist for supermodels, and you might not know that he has a passion for music. And he's had dark times in his life, and he's had very rewarding, very joy-filled times in his life. And it's all played into the person that he is, and he wouldn't have it any other way. So we had a really rewarding conversation. And despite the fact that my friend Andrew Coates said that Jeb is primarily a great podcast guest for his sexy podcast voice, there's so much more that he brings to the table. And so you will have to tune in to find out what makes Jeb a good guy. Thanks for listening. Welcome to The Lifestyle Chase, Season 2. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. I'm your host, Chris Little. Let's get started. The Lifestyle Chase is brought to you by Yeg Fitness. Yeg Fitness is Edmonton, Alberta, Canada's healthy lifestyle community, creating and supporting active living for all. Check them out online at yegfitness.ca and on social media at yegfitness. So, welcome to episode 98 of The Lifestyle Chase. I am joined by the one and only Jeb Stuart Johnston. Did I get your name the way you like to be referred to, or what's your most common way to be introduced?
Yeah, that's it. I've always used my full name when I sign things, so it kind of just was when social media became a thing. It just kind of was a natural progression. But people just call me Jeb. Nobody uses my middle name in real life.
Yeah, well, it has such a cool flow to it. So
yeah, growing up, I hated it, so like it's cool to embrace it now.
Yeah, well, I can totally relate to that because it's just like my Instagram handle, Christian Little. Anytime anybody calls me Christian, I'm like, what the heck? Like, is my mom nearby? Like, it throws me off. But the reason I did it is because like somebody else had Chris Little, and people were calling me Christopher all the time. And it was my one way to make sure that people didn't call me Christopher if I put it in my Instagram handle that I was Christian. And yeah, it's just like it's something that I wasn't used to hearing like from age like 12 on to age 22, and then from that point forward, lately a lot of people call me Christian. I'm like, sweet, that's awesome, that's my name.
Yeah, and I kind of think like this is a kind of a dumb thing, but like remembering like growing up, like friends of mine who had like kind of like child. There's like the kid part of your name, and then there's like the adult version. And it's like no one ever wanted to use the adult version of your kids, but then at some point you're like, okay, like stop calling me Timmy. Like now it's to be Timothy.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what's your morning routine like? Like it's fairly early in the morning, and what have you done so far?
So I have I've actually adopted my first practice in the morning. I mean, obviously, I get up, I take my dog out, feed him, get my coffee. But I spend the first hour of every morning doing a writing practice, and it's basically I love writing, but I found when I was doing a lot of blogs, I write, professionally. I write for publications and magazines on the side, in addition to being a nutrition coach, and so it could be a slog sometimes when I would get to it. So by adopting it first thing in the morning, I practice it. I can kind of write what I want. I actually usually pick a word or a phrase or a client story or something like that, and I just write kind of. I just free form. I go for it, and when that hour's done, I'm done. I have to just kind of clean it up a little bit, and then that's my daily posts. Currently, all those posts go on Instagram, and they will continue, but I'm shifting over to a website and an email subscription kind of thing where I'll send those out daily. Actually, Carolyn McDonald has helped me set that up. So we should be launching that soon. It looks she's done a killer job. It looks awesome.
That's super exciting. She's really good at helping people with stuff. Like,
Oh man, so good. But yeah, so I do my writing practice first thing in the morning for an hour. Hopefully, I finish a little bit early. Then the next half hour to an hour, I study. I do whatever study I'm working on. So currently, I'm doing Ben House's research wing. So I'll do a little bit of that some days, or I also I'm doing a lot of research in psychology right now. So I have like three or four behavior books that I'm working on. So like I'll kind of do that for a half hour, and then I launch into my day of doing client check-ins, which is the majority of my life.
love it. So you've been working with Lisa Lewis lately, haven't you? Or I should say
Yeah, so I
Dr.
started.
Lisa.
Yeah, I started working with Lisa. I would say probably 8 or 9 months ago. My career is doing better than it ever has. Everything was going great, but there was something I just couldn't put my finger on, and I thought um, I want to. I've been in an exploratory phase, so definitely the last 2 years, like guys like Ben House and Pat Davidson really started helping me to question the way I thought. And so I started, spending more time talking with those guys like Dean, friend of yours, who I spent a lot of time talking with, and we just started exploring things a little differently. And I had wanted to see Lisa speak for a while because I knew her and Tony, her husband, did a seminar together, and it never could work out. And so she was speaking at the fitness summit where you and I met. And so I went there kind of expressly to meet her and asked her if she does any kind of mentorship or anything like that. And so we just kind of started doing, I signed up for like a consultation, and that's turned into a 2 to 3 time a month meeting. We every other week. I'll be working with her again later today, and it's I don't know what exactly we'd call it. I guess it would be kind of a mentorship, but it's also like uh, career consulting. We talk a lot about my work with my clients. We talk a lot about my own goals. So it's this really interesting kind of intersection of career counseling and I would because it's not technically therapy, it's not, but in a way, it is like talk therapy for me as well because my own uh, behavioral stuff, my own uh, way I react with clients, very much it speaks to where I am.
That's really cool. So if you were to describe yourself, just for anybody that doesn't know who you are, in about 3 sentences, how would you describe yourself? Just what you're about, what you do, and yeah,
Oh man, what am I about? Uh, I am on a constant quest for a better truth, whether that be in fitness, nutrition, whatever. Um, but my search, I think, is through human behavior, um, and I know that we're consistently kind of trapped in shades of um, things that are how wrong something is. But if we can get a little bit better each day, I think that's kind of where I want to live.
I like that. So, who are 3 people who have changed your life?
Um, I mean, right off the top of the bat, I really have to say Dr. Lisa Lewis. I mean, since I began working with her, um, it's had a huge impact on the way I approach work, the way I approach life, everything. Uh, so from a professional aspect, absolutely, she's been huge. Um, Obviously, my wife. We've been together for 15 years. She's been with me through. Uh, she's been through a lot of challenges with me. I'm a problem child, that's for sure. Um, but she's taught me so much about myself and um, about persistence. She's got a doggedness to her. She works her ass off. Super talented. And then Another professionally, I would say a guy named Sean Heisen, who is the editor. He was the editor at Men's Fitness for years. He's my training partner in New York, and he now is the content director at On It. But when I met him, we started working out together, and I took the deep dive into fitness and nutrition. He kind of just taught me everything I knew, and gave me this base, this platform for which my entire career has come from, really.
So if we took a time machine and went back 20 years, where would that take you in your life? What was life like? Who were you looking up to then, and what were you doing?
Oh, all right. You're getting the juicy stuff now. So I'm 41 years old. So 20 years ago, I was 21. I was I had gone to music school in Nashville, came back, and I was bartending. I came back to Baltimore to bartend, save money, to move out to LA. I was going to pursue music and acting out there. Unfortunately, I started bartending at a kind of really popular nightclub, and so I got all the things that I had been searching for in music and acting. Outside of the creative outlet, I got all the trappings that came with that. There's a lot of partying, a lot of drugs, a lot of booze, lots of girls. Um, and yeah, so I basically dove right into that. And, that was a lifestyle in and of itself. I was about 140 pounds, soaking wet, long hair. Uh, uh, the people I looked up to, I'd probably say I looked up most to, Keith Richards, rock and roll lifestyle. Like that was my thing. I always said I could have had a behind the music episode. For those of you who are old enough to remember, behind the music was this VH1 show where they just like talked about rock stars. It was just about pure debauchery. But I loved that. Like that was what I was into. I didn't lift weights and work out, like smoked cigarettes, drank a ton. And it was fine. It was good until it was not good anymore. And they always say like drugs and alcohol works for you until it works against you. And it would be a few years working, but 20 years ago, yeah, that was my life. My life was partying, music, yeah, just I did not hold back. I lived to the fullest. That's for sure.
What was the moment where you became the most self-aware of this stuff? Like, you know how sometimes we we don't see what's going on until we like take a step back and like reflect. Where was your moment where that happened for yourself?
Well, for me, unfortunately, it happened pretty early on. My dad's an alcoholic, and he stopped drinking my freshman year of college, and I went to my first detox my freshman year of college. And so I would end up going to rehabs and jail and detoxes over a period of 15 more years, 20, almost 20 more years. And so I was very aware of the ramifications of what I was doing. I didn't really care because at that time the trade off was worth it to me. Um, Finally, the real turning point, because I had wanted to quit drinking, or for other people, there was always a reason, whether the courts made me do it or whatever. I repeatedly tried to quit, but there was really a time. It was 3 years ago where I wanted desperately to stop drinking, and the problem was when I would stop, I would get so physically ill that I was worried I was going to die. And for those that aren't really familiar with, kind of more deep stage alcoholism, it's alcohol and benzodiazepines are the only two things that will kill you from withdrawal. And growing up, my mom's a psychologist. Growing up, I've been to so many rehabs. I knew the dangers of quitting drinking, and I was having trouble getting insurance to cover any detox or anything like that. But it was one of those things where like that was this huge realization of like, wow, I really don't want to do this. And alcohol, the thing that kind of had given me, confidence and feelings of power and all these things, was actively killing me at this point. If I took it away, it could also kill me. And that was this thing where I was like, wow, I am I'm in a very tight spot here. And so when I finally got into a detox, and when I did, I went in there, it came out. I was on a lot of drugs to get through the detox, and felt like a zombie for about a month. I remember because I was lifting, and I was pretty big into lifting at this point, and I remember I couldn't squat, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't walk around the block without being exhausted, having to come home and sleep for like 6 hours. So that was this big realization of like, okay, like that's a trap. And when you physically know you can't get out of something without medical intervention, you're like, okay, that this is a different game now. And now that after that it was easy. Like I don't even think about it anymore. I mean, it's always there. It's always going to be a risk. It's always one of these things like I can't ever drink again. Um, but at the same time, I don't ever want to.
Yeah. So that was a that's a pretty dark time to live through, and nobody wishes that upon anyone. But at the same time, like, how has it contributed to your career as a nutrition coach? Like, there's got to be ways in which it has made you more versatile or more skilled. Are there things that you can allude to or like pinpoint?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, I don't regret a single moment of my past. Every single thing that happened to me, everything that I made happen to myself, those things all contributed to who I am right now, and I am thrilled with the person that I am. Now, there's things that hopefully I could have, the things the hurt or pain I could have caused other people is something I wish I hadn't. But as far as where it led me, I'm happy with the way everything's gone. So with that aside, I was never, most people in this industry, especially in nutrition, were people that lost a significant amount of weight. People that were, obese and then lost weight, and that's how they connect. Um, I never have. I've never had to. I was a skinny kid. I struggled to put weight on. I eat like a madman to try and get my weight up. Again, I was when I got married, I was 143 pounds. I mean, even at 33, I was maybe a hundred. I was definitely under 150, and now I'm about 205. So it's like that was my struggle, was to gain weight. But I will tell people, I'll say, I don't understand what it's like to be obese. I don't understand what it's like to fight to lose weight. But I can tell you, I do understand what it's like to feel like I don't have control over something. I know what it feels like that, when I take a drink of something, that I know that at that point I have it completely out of control. It's why I'll argue with people to the end of the day, because people talk about food not being addictive or whatever. It's a semantic argument. The complete lack of understanding that people have between the differences between a chemical addiction and a behavioral addiction. It speaks to kind of the tone deafness of our industry in a lot of ways. But I can tell you the behaviors that accompany drug and alcohol addiction look very similar to the ones that accompany food behavioral issues. Whether you call it addiction or not, I don't care. To me, it's like it's fitness pros arguing about who's got the best six pack. It's missing the forest for the trees. But that's how I relate. Again, if you looked at me, people would assume that my clientele is like bodybuilders or athletes or all, but my niche really is. I mean, I would say that my niche is perimenopausal women who deal with emotional eating. I do deal with work with a lot of men as well, and a lot of them deal with emotional eating and don't really know how to talk about it. But women tend to be a little bit more vocal about it, and so therefore that tends to be who I work with. And for them, I understand. I mean, I understand that, most of this comes from a place of hurt, a place of emotion, a place of difficulty, societal pressures. And so we can take those things into account. And I can say, I haven't been there. I'm not a woman. I've never been overweight. But I can give you my experiences in life, and hopefully some of them can coincide with some of the things you might be feeling, so that we can at least have some similarities.
I like that. As far as communication goes, what is like your best skill and how did you hone that skill when it comes to communicating better or listening better or like speaking what you want to speak more clearly?
Not speaking, really. As you can tell, I'm a rather loquacious person, so I have a tendency to lean on my words. I have a tendency to lean on my experience. I have a tendency to lean on expertise in a topic, and those things actually don't get you anywhere in helping people. People need to be heard, and if I can shut up for long enough to let them talk, if I can shut up for long enough to help them feel that there is someone finally listening to them, um, they're going to tell me what I need to know. Because I can tell them I'm not going to give them any new information. The information's out there. It's more that letting them feel they're in a safe place to give me the information that can hopefully help them.
I like that. So we got a very similar hairstyle, except you used to do the hairstyling. Like what got you into that, and like what's the story behind it?
So I was, again, as a musician, I bartended, I ran some nightclubs, and it paid very well. But when this the first time I quit drinking, I was sober for about 3 years when I met my wife, and just wasn't a real conducive environment. If you've ever gotten to a party where you showed up at the party and everyone's already drunk and you're sober, that was pretty much my life because I didn't drink. I was in bars where everyone was hammered and they were like, "You're not having fun." I'm like, "No, you're just a drunk idiot right now. Like, I will hang out with you tomorrow, but right now you're annoying." And so my wife was also she worked a regular 9 to 5. She had started her career in the jewelry industry. She was a jewelry artist, and then kind of got on the corporate side of things into sales. And so she was regular 9 to 5. I was going to work at 6 or 7 or 8 at night and coming home at 4 in the morning. And it was time to find a career change. And my old roommate for years was a hairdresser. My wife's sister was a hairdresser. I knew a lot of hairstylists, so I thought, this is something that it'd allow me to still play gigs because it's not an early morning job. Like, I go in at noon. It'll allow me to have some flexibility in my schedule. The money's good. It's creative. And the big one is I could wear cool clothes. I go in and, wear like, jeans and boots and a concert tee or whatever. And, so I got into that. And as I do with everything, I don't go partially into something. I got into it. I got obsessed with it. I started, searching out the best hairstylists anywhere and asking them if I could help them in any way. Worked my way up to, one of the top salons in New York at the time. It was a salon that was focused on, we did mainly hair, like it was mainly models. So we were pretty much a fashion salon. So it was supermodels in there, a lot of famous actors and actresses would come through. But like Victoria's Secret models, swimsuit models. Derek Jeter's now wife was one of our clients. I used to do her hair all the time. And then I started working on photo shoots behind the scenes in the fashion world. Just craziness. It really, I worked Fashion Week every year. And so it took off, and it was, I talk a lot to people about outcome goals and why I don't think they're very important. Because within my careers, I've kind of achieved everything I wanted to. In this career, I still have a lot of stepping stones, but I started to realize that, my first goal was to work, the best salons in like the DC area. And I got to work with the best hairdresser I thought there. Then it was to make it to New York and be a hairdresser there. And I did that. Then it was to work with celebrities. I did that. Then it was to be on, the hair I did was on the cover of every, Vogue, In Style, whatever. Because I had supermodel clients, they were on the, runways at Marc Jacobs in the spreads and magazines. So I achieved all the things I wanted to, and it never gave me any satisfaction. So yeah, it was a career that gave me a lot, taught me a lot, and something that I never really connected with all the way, even though I wanted to be the best. And as I moved my way up the ladder, more and more things started telling me like you don't want to do this.
So what is it within yourself that tells you whether you want to do something or not? Like what kind of self-awareness have you had to have to find your purpose through all these different careers and like life phases that you've had?
Well, I think a big thing is I wasn't ever, I think there's this weird thing of like find your passion. So my passion's always been music or acting, whatever. And I don't really know that finding your passion is that important because I think you can find, it's that passion versus purpose thing. And I think you can find purpose in something, and that will be much more important, and passion will come. I joke all the time, but my niche, the people I love to work with, what my passion is now in the industry is working with emotional eaters. Is working with people. There's no way that you could have ever like that. There's no way that was going to be my passion. There's no way that like getting into this industry, I was like, I can't wait to get into this to work with, people that deal with emotional eating. No, I wanted to work with like, I wanted to work with jujitsu world champions and athletes and like all this stuff. But that I don't actually. That's not. I mean, it's fine. I'll work with them, but that's not what I enjoy. I love working with people that struggle and have a really hard time with things because I feel that's where I can provide the most value in this world. And so that is how I judge now. Is am I providing value? Am I feeling challenged? Do I want to continually pursue being better every day at this, um, and not just getting the acclaim or popularity from it. So with hair, it was always like, what can I get on this magazine? How can I get these people to notice me? How can I get my foot in at this magazine? How can I do this? Um, in nutrition, yes, I feel that I'm every day getting a little bit more uh, notice and things, but I don't care about that. It's all that I'm doing is like, why do I spend the inordinate amount of money I do on education? It's not so that anyone notices. It's so that I can maybe be 1/10% better with my clients. Um, and I think that's where it comes in. Like I'm passionate about like again this course with Ben House right now. I'm learning how to read studies. Right. Um, I don't know if that's going to help me with my clients. It probably will, but it's really hard to see things from far out. You have to just if you desire to just put your all into something, and you wake up and it's what you want to do, and you go to bed and it's what you're thinking about. Like I don't know. To me, that's how I live right now. It's like it's all. I mean, it's probably a little obsessive. It might not be the healthiest, but it's all I care about.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like, I'm a person who kind of dives down the rabbit hole in the same way. And with the content that you put out, you were doing a bunch of stuff. I think you had some sous vide videos that you were doing.
Yeah.
What's your passion for cooking? Like, where has that stemmed from, and what has given you the skills that you have?
Well, I would say my passion for cooking has definitely waned a lot in the fitness journey, just because right now, especially, I just have to eat mass amount of food. So like, I don't even care about what I'm eating. But growing up, I've always been passionate about food. My dad was like a master barbecuer. Like he actually judges barbecue competitions now. My brother's the same way. My mom was always a great cook. She's from the South. Like, I love food. Grew again, being a musician and a bartender, worked in restaurants from the day I was probably, I think 14 was my first restaurant job. And, I finally left the industry at like maybe 26 or 27. But I've ever done everything from washing dishes to cooking to, my wife and I still to this day, like we go to great restaurants. I travel for food. I mean, if I go to Paris, like I'm going to a certain restaurant. Italy, like was all about just touring for food. We were down in Tulum, and we don't go to bars or anything. It's like I made reservations for like three like world class restaurants in Tulum. Like that's what I want to do. I want to eat, and I think I'm able to like appreciate even more now because I do just like most days I'm eating like chicken or ground beef and rice. And so cooking to me is just I don't know. It's just a part of like I eat out like once a week because I live in New York City. Like you're going to, but I just to me it's you just cook like that's just how you live life, and it's being good at it makes life easier, I think. But the sous vide videos really to me was about simplicity. I have a lot of New York clients. I have a lot of clients who don't cook or don't know how to cook. And so I bought a sous vide, and I'm like, this thing's so easy that any like you can't screw it up. And making a good steak in New York City and not like you know sending every fire alarm in the building off, like that's a hard thing to do. But with a sous vide, you can cook a perfectly medium rare steak, sear it on a grill pan, and all of a sudden you've got like it's like barbecue. It's like having a good grill. And so like that kind of stuff is invaluable. So I just was doing that for my clients. Plus, I was trying to do more like YouTube video because I so where I feel like I do a really good job in my work life, trying to build content has always been a struggle for me to find my voice, to try and find what I want to do. And it's not until I started doing this daily exercise every morning that I've kind of figured out how I produce content best. And I still want to do videos, like once a month for my site, but just because I think it helps people kind of get a grasp of who I am by seeing my face a little bit. But yeah, it's a lot of that was just trying to find things to make videos of and make people's lives a little easier.
Yeah, I totally get that. In the last 5 years, what's a moment that you felt the most joy?
Mm. This is going to sound silly, but I I really find those moments a lot, um, a lot. And I remember I did a post a couple years ago, and I was talking with a good friend of mine. Uh, he spent a year in prison, and I narrowly avoided a very long-term prison sentence, and I went to jail a few times. And there's days like just being sober and not, I've done 4 months at a time in rehab, so I've been isolated and taken away from the normal world. And there was a day I was doing dishes, and I just remember that probably is it. I was doing dishes, and I just felt this overwhelming gratitude that I was able to do dishes. And so I don't take anything for granted because if that judge had ruled a little differently, um, I could be in prison right now, and I wouldn't even be able to wash dishes. I wouldn't be able to clean floors. The things that people complain about a lot of times, I'm like, wow, I get to do this today because if life had gone one little way differently, I might not be able to. So while I feel those things every day, I would say that moment, actually, that day, putting those dishes away and having that kind of epiphany was probably the greatest joy that I've had.
That's really cool because like I would never think of my dishes and be like, "Wow, I'm so glad I get to do these." But like when I see it from your perspective, then I understand. It's like, yeah, like that is a privilege, a freedom in which it's such a small task and you get to do it. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of tenets within Buddhism that the way they talk about is work is godliness, right? And people talk about having pride in their work, but if you really do think about everything you're doing is it's and I say godliness not in a religion aspect because I'm not a religious person, but I think of it as kind of that universal godliness of like really being one with everything, and that is like everything we do. If we do it to the best of our ability, it becomes a perfect practice. And I think it's so easy for us to look at some things as menial and some things as important, and not put as much work into them. But um, really putting our passion and our energies into something as small as doing our dishes, and putting and really just our focus of true mindfulness of being in that moment, being present. um, Life becomes a much richer, much more beautiful process.
what's in your traveling, what is a place that you have gone to where you felt the most like emotional abundance?
Well, I live in New York City, the greatest city in the world. So to me, this is like, this is my home. This is my place. So I leave. Um, like, it's funny because a lot of people can't stand it here. They're like, it's just too busy. Like I feel calm. I feel at home here, and it is just a complete barrage of insanity all the time. But I love it. Like I live for this place. Other than that, there's um, Rome was just always felt overwhelming from the pure history. To look and to see like something like the aqueducts and realize the technological advancements of these places that existed before any kind of modernity that we think of, is amazing. And then Paris, which strangely I thought I would hate Paris, and it was one of the. I am in love with Paris. I've been quite a few times, and I don't do anything when I go. Like we go to a museum, but like my big thing is like I wake up and I love to go to the little patisserie and get like a pain au chocolat in the morning because having a croissant with chocolate chips in it for breakfast is just amazing. and and then just like going through a museum and that lifestyle of kind of cafe culture of sitting and really watching the world go by and just being there. Um, it's really special. It's really special, and I love that city, and I just love the architecture of it. So and obviously all those places have a lot of similarities, probably like Rome, New York, Paris, like they're all kind of similar. London, I loved, but London felt like New York's older, more conservative brother. So it was kind of like, okay, I'll go back to New York.
That's awesome. Has there ever been a place that you've traveled to where you felt like completely out of your element or like you didn't know what to do?
No, no, I'm a pretty solid traveler. My wife laughs because I like, I mean, even in the most dire of situations, I mean, uh, we were in Puerto Rico on a long weekend and got when Maria came through, and so we ended up getting stranded in Puerto Rico for about 2 weeks. There was no flights allowed out. There was no water, no electricity, no money. Food was getting pretty short, and even then, I was like, "We're cool. Like we're just chilling. Like this is a thing." As a child, I moved around a lot, so I never lived anywhere longer than 2 or 3 years. So for me, being out of place is kind of the norm. So I adapt pretty well.
So, with regards to you and your wife, what are three ways that she makes you into a better human being?
Um, she's taught me how to accept emotion better. She's very emotional. So she'll cry, and a big lesson I learned from her is a lot of times I always took crying as this like this really like kind of bad emotion, and she'll cry from frustration. She'll cry from anger, and it taught me a lot about especially more so women's emotions. And I think especially in my age group, women were taught that. The only way that it's acceptable to really express yourself was through crying. That women aren't supposed to be angry, and she's a tough chick. So her anger is also pretty strong. But she's taught me a lot about accepting emotion and being okay with it and not shying from it. When we first started dating, uh, she we would get into an argument and I would start packing my stuff and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna go to my mom's. Obviously, you don't want me here." She's like, "No, we're having a fight. Like we have to work through this." And so I think she's also taught me conflict resolution a lot because I would just a problem presented itself, I would just run away. And so she's forced me to really look at problems. And she's just taught me emotional regulation in a lot of ways. Again, like I had this running joke actually when I was giving a seminar. I was talking about the difference between reasonable and logical mind, and I said I'm a very logically minded person. Like I don't buy my wife flowers because why would I buy something that's just going to die? It sounds stupid to me. But she really likes flowers, so I've had to adjust my way of thinking in a lot of things um, to be a better husband and a better partner and those things. So I'd say like emotional regulation, conflict resolution, and perception, being able to really put myself in someone else's shoes.
I like that, especially the part where it's just like, hey, we're having an argument, stay, like to actually work
Yeah,
through the different things and like lean into the friendships, relationships, all that stuff.
it's hard. It sucks. It's hard to like sit there and really like hash it out when it's easier just to leave and then pretend it never happened. But in all our relationships. But it's made me a better coach, right? Because that's what we have. We have to lean into these uncomfortable conversations, and your clients will appreciate you so much more if you can have those uncomfortable conversations in a way that benefits them and in a way that is not um, vindictive or condescending.
What's your proudest moment you've ever had as a nutrition coach?
I mean, every day. I mean, I really can't say because, like, honestly, when I see these, and it's not about a client. I've had clients lose 100 pounds. I'm proud of that. I've had clients that haven't lost a pound, and I'm so proud of them. From my work, I mean, I'm constantly I beam over working with these people. But honestly, like right now, from a professional standpoint, my proudest thing was I got chosen to be the rookie presenter at Inland Empire Fitness Conference, which is Tim Arndt's thing he puts on. Um, from a professional standpoint, I really it was really validation that I'm on this path that is the right thing. Because my big aspirations are to speak more, to get in front of more people, to help other coaches realize that emotion is not something to be shied away from, and that we can use to our practice better. And I think this is going to help give me a platform to do that. So I was really proud to get that.
Yeah, it's super exciting. With regards to the volume of tattoos that you have, like, first of all, how many tattoos do you have?
I've got a bunch, but I mean, the one on my back took almost 18 months to complete, getting tattooed once a month. So even though that's really just one tattoo, it's probably more hours than most people will ever have.
Yeah.
It was horrifically painful, took forever, and it's probably one of it's definitely my proudest possession, if you could call it that. And like one of my friends referred to it's my midlife crisis because it's also probably the most expensive thing I own.
So, what is the why behind your tattoos? What was your very first one like, and what is the story to them?
My first tattoo was our family badge. So I come from a Scottish line, the Johnstons, and if you've ever seen Braveheart, there was the guy Robert the Bruce, who was the King of Scotland, and he was actually speaking with the King of England, and one of my relatives found out that he was about to be assassinated, so rode by his tent, threw a spur with a feather attached to it, which was code to flee before you get assassinated. So he did, and then he came back and he said to the Johnston clan, he says, "Is the Johnston clan ready for war with England?" And my relative replied, "Nunquam non paratus," which is never not prepared. And so we come from a long history of assassins and horse thieves. And so we said, and then we went and beat back the English and won Scottish independence. And so he gave us our family badge, which is a winged spur and says Nunquam non paratus. So that was my first tattoo. And there was actually, rudimentary versions of this tattoo that was done on the shoulder of my ancestors. And so that's why I chose that. And then after that, I just chose cool things that I like for pretty pictures.
Nice.
They have zero meaning now. Like I just like them.
So the big one on your back, is there any meaning to that, or it just looks cool, or?
No, I wanted to get I wanted either Atlas or I was thinking of like Hercules, like wrestling a lion for like my passion for jujitsu and wrestling, or something. And my tattoo artist is an amazing artist, and he's like, yeah, that's not going to look good. I won't do that. He's like that's going to age. He's like, and so he came up with some ideas that were kind of showed strength, and he came with this painting from Kuniyoshi, which is from this book that was written in China like 3,000 years ago. But the the heroes from this, it's like Heroes of the Suikoden, I think it's called. But they basically, this guy was went and was saving this village from the autocrats, and broke through this dam, was getting shot with arrows, and it's a beautiful painting, and the guy has tattoos all over him, and so he's like, "What about this?" And I was like, "Okay." And I wasn't even into Japanese tattoos. I'm into more American traditional stuff. But he's a brilliant Japanese tattooer, studied in Japan, all this stuff. So I was like, I mean, mainly I'm coming to get a piece from you. This is my 40th birthday present to myself. And you're an artist, and if this is an artistic piece you want to do, like, I'm collecting art. To me, I'm just collecting art. I'm not really like, so I was like, cool, do it. I thought it was gonna be like one of these things where I'd go 2 or 3 times and it would be done. And yeah, 16 or 18 sessions later, it was finally finished.
Wow. As far as like the pain of the tattoo went, did it kind of like, did you associate that with anything that you had emotionally gone through? Like, did it kind of take you back to other things that you'd had to overcome, or did it make you more resilient having gone through that process?
No, it just sucked. I mean, like the regular pain was fine, but there was such acute pain. There's if anyone ever asks, the most painful place in your body to get tattooed, as far as I'm concerned, is in the crease of your butt cheek where it meets your leg. I mean, when I say pain, there's nothing I could associate with this. There's no there. I mean, I don't. I've I've been doing jujitsu for a long time. I've done striking arts. I've done everything. I've been hit in the head. I've been knocked unconscious. Nothing comes close to the excruciating pain of a tattoo needle in the crease of your butt cheek. It's bad, and I'm talking even like the sacrum. Like my butt crack is tattooed. Does not hurt as bad as that underneath. So yeah, no, I wasn't thinking about anything about except for not passing out and not asking him to quit because that was the biggest thing. Is like you just got to do it. Like the worst thing is like if I want this done, I just have to deal with it. There's no way around it. You can't skip it. There's no hacks. You just got to go through this. So I'm sure there is some bigger allegory to like life and all that, but basically it's like when you're in that kind of pain, you're just like, I'm like literally just grabbing the pillow, like trying not to cry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's good because you had an honest answer, and it kind of like, I was, oh shit, like, yeah, he's not bullshitting. He is just being straight up with me. But at the same time, like, it's so true with anything that we're doing in our career, in our fitness, in our nutrition. It's just like, there is no, like, shortcut. You just gotta do it.
Yeah, and it's gonna suck. Like everything's gonna suck. And that's I think what the problem is we want to tell people that it's going to be easy and that it's going to be fine and that we give this idea that somehow like struggling is a bad thing and struggle is probably mostly self-made. That is true, but that's also not a bad thing. We learn better when we struggle through things. We become better by struggling through things. Life is basically struggle. Life is stress. And if we learn to create an adaptation to that stress, we get better. Just like training. If there's no stress, there's no adaptation, there's no betterment. And so these things we have to go through them. We have to go through pain. We have to go through difficulty, and trying to there's a great Sapolsky quote that I use a lot, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm not going to get it right, but it's it's something like the desire to create. Or it can be enormously stressful to try and create a stress-free life, something like that. But it's like if you try to remove stress from your life, you're going to end up creating more existential stress, more. And it's like, listen, we need that. We need stress. We need difficulty. Like, use it. Don't hide from it. And I think that's if there's one thing I've done well in my life, it's I don't blame things. I don't get upset. Like a lot of people, if you look at my life on paper, it doesn't really turn out the way it does in real life. Like it's turned out pretty well, and that's because I look at all the shit that happened, and I'm like, cool, like this is a chance for me to learn.
I love that. When it comes to laying out your goals or like setting goals, like, do you set goals and how do you set goals and how far in advance do you do it?
I set very loose goals. I don't like timed goals. Like, there's certain things that I'm good that are good goals, like deadlines. Like, okay, you have this article due because the editor needs it in 2 weeks, or like I'm doing again Ben House's course right now. We have weekly projects like that's due. Cool, like that. Those are good things that are just like timelines to keep you on pace. But like, if I'm not a competitive lifter, I don't do things competitively. So for me now, I don't really set goals as per like I need to lift this much weight. My weight goals, like my weight goal is to get to 215 by March. But again, because I understand process so well, I know that I don't truly have any control over that outcome. I got sick. There was a couple things that happened that I'm not going to hit my goal, but I'm not going to look at it as a failure. I'm going to be like, okay, cool. Like that just means I didn't. Fine. I don't put a lot of quote unquote weight on my goals. They're there for markers for yardsticks, and we go for them. But like right now, I do have a goal for I've been doing Hatfield squats. Like I haven't been able to squat in probably years because of low back issues, and I found Hatfield squats, and they're pretty pain free. I mean, I can do a decent amount. So the first time I really got into them, I did 400 for 12. I was like, okay, cool. Like so last week I did 422 and got 10, and so my goal now is to get 500 for 8. I don't know. I think I'll definitely get 500 for 5, but I don't know about 8. But it's something to push for. If I don't get it, I don't really care. And I think that's the importance. Like I set the goals, but I'm not like um, hung by like a timeline or whatever it is. And I'm really just doing that because it's fun to lift heavy. And I'm going to go to Costa Rica. When I come back, I'm going to go back to hypertrophy and probably do a bunch of leg presses before I do Hatfield squats. So I'll only probably be able to do like 300, you know. But I don't really care about those things. I'm very process oriented at this point.
Yeah. So we went back and we reflected on the version of you from 20 years ago. What would that version of you say if they met you now?
Why are you 200 pounds and bald? And why are yeah, I'd probably be make sure you keep playing music, like, because I don't play as much as I'd like to. I have an album I'm working on, but it definitely takes the back burner because my bandwidth is taken up with fitness stuff and research. And um but I do think that I would say, like, listen, like, I'm glad you've improved yourself, I'm glad you're happy, but don't forget about this important part of yourself.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about music? Like what fills your cup the most when it comes to music?
It's just writing. It's an outlet. Again, I get that outlet in other ways too, but it's writing, and it's something I've done forever. I've come from a musical family, so it's just what we do. My sister's a bass player. My brother's a special forces operator, but he also plays guitar and piano, and played tuba, I think, in the high school band. But yeah, it's just a part of me. And I'm not like, I'm a weird musician. I'm not like someone who like lives for music or has to go see shows. Like, I listen to things based on what I'm writing. Same way I do with like fitness stuff. I listen to podcasts or read articles based on what I'm working on, not necessarily on other things. Like, I'm one of the weird people that, like, if you ask me, like, what do you do for enjoyment? My enjoyment things are all pretty tied into work stuff. Like, I don't have like extemporaneous activities.
Yeah, I'm a pretty similar weird person. It's just like downtime, it's more fitness stuff, kind of pouring into like
Yeah,
just learning and like evolving and finding out how I can be a bit more versatile and answering my own internal questions and stuff like that.
yeah, I think that's a good point too, because right, because we can use fitness as kind of a metaphor for self awareness, for self exploration, and it doesn't have to be this like um, you know just aesthetic, shallow goal that so many people think it is.
Yeah. So, if you could give one piece of advice on how to live your life to the fullest in the most authentic way, what would that piece of advice be?
Engage in talk therapy. Uh, Find a way to truly um, explore what you can do best and how you can do it best. That to me is most important. And I think we can only be so objective with ourselves, and that's why finding a good therapist and finding a way to engage in some type of talk therapy will give us the skills to truly self explore.
And who are three people that you just look up to in the world?
Just in general.
Yeah.
Hmm, God, it's the hard thing is because it would have been easier like 10 years ago because uh, your heroes are so much less fallible. But the more of them you actually meet, they're more human. I would say, God, um, I mean, I look. I think I'm growing to look up to my parents more now, because I appreciate them, and what they've done, and the struggles of being an adult. um, I think within the fitness world, I think I have so many. I'm so many. I have so much friends with all these people, so it's weird. But I really do think, again, Ben House and Pat Davidson kind of are the same in that same boat because they both made me question everything I was doing and forced, by nothing they did, but their process forced me to start to examine my own process. Um, and then, my wife, I mean, she kills it. I mean, she's just like, just in everything she does. So,
Yeah.
I kind of gave five.
That's perfect. That's a good answer. I like it, and it's good reflection to see so many people from so many different walks of life actually like make it simple, break it down, and be like, look, like yeah, my parents, because like our parents, we need to give them more credit. Like when we have that ability to reflect and have that person in our life that we can like say, yeah, they made me who I am, then that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think for me, they definitely, I would say I definitely would say I didn't have the best childhood, but I think as you grow older, you start to reflect and you realize that we're flawed. We're fatally flawed, all of us, and we're all doing the best we can with what we have. Um, and my big thing is a takeaway from dialectical behavioral therapy is we're all doing the best we can, but we have to do better, and that's my daily struggle.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can take something from that sentiment. And that basically summarizes all I have for you today. So I'd like to thank you very much for joining me.
Awesome, man. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
If you've made it this far, you may come to the conclusion that I have a little bit of a cough. My voice sounds a little bit off, but hopefully it wasn't too bad. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Jeb today. I really enjoyed it, so I hope you did as well. If you want to find out more about him, you can find him on all the social media outlets at Jeb Stewart Johnston. He's a great human being. It really stood out to me that when I went to the Kansas City Fitness Summit, he was someone who really took time to like listen to what I was all about. And he's got a lot more life experience than me. So it was just something that made me feel extra special because he wanted to kind of know my story, and he was invested in listening to other people, which makes him stand out. So I hope you enjoyed. Share it with a friend, rate it on iTunes, and have yourself a good day.